Yeah, here we go. So,
Hi everyone, I'm Alex,
Hi, I'm Michaela.
and welcome back to the episode 3 of our series Computers of Chernobyl. It's a series where we explore and study use of computer equipment in a Chernobyl exclusion zone. So, in previous 2 episodes, we told you about the restoration of ES-1841, the Soviet 8086 Intel clone-based computer, the same as was used back in the Chernobyl zone in the end of 80s, beginning of 90s. So what we will do today, we will make a very first start of the complete setup in nearly 30 years. Of course, we tried to test some individual components, but altogether, that's only the first time. All in all, getting some original software was kind of a challenging task. But among other programs, today we are going to show you a software written and used in Chernobyl back in the 80s. But all programs that time were generally distributed on pretty low quality floppy disks, and very little survived till today intact. But with the help of retro computing community and a few friends, we have some floppy disks. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and let's go! Even a longer version of this video, as well as restoration, backstages and a lot of translated documentation will be on our Patreon. So please check it, link is in description below. Before all, let's see our launch setup. In the system unit we have a processor board with a Soviet clone of Intel 8086 processor installed. But we will go in a more hardcore way, so we are going to run it with no arithmetical coprocessor. As for memory, we'll have 2 boards that form a 640 kilobytes of RAM. As for graphic card, we made it a little bit tricky, because according to the user manual, the graphic card provides only a signal for a composite display. But upon the further examination of electronic sockets, we found that it's actually full EGA. So we played with jumpers and made this kind of adapter. It allows to connect an EGA monitor and at the same time to get black and white composite signal that we will process by USB capture adapter, plug it into a Mac Mini with a QuickTime running. This will allow us to make a full screen capture that we will put also on our Patreon page. Technically, as maximum, this computer supports up to 4 floppy drives at the same time, but by the standard configuration which we use, we have 2 of them connected via a shared cable. We also have a native mouse which is plugged into the same controller. That's it. Just look on it and hear this sound. Also we have a ports controller and we want to try some printing, so we made the yes to Centronics cable. The printer is a modern version of Epson LX300, which has many interfaces. We needed to play with its settings to work with Centronics only. And a few words about the keyboard, because it's a little bit unusual. It's a Soviet rework of a PC keyboard, it's Hall effect based, and many buttons were renamed, some such as F11 or F12 are missing, so there are only 10 function buttons all in all. An escape is called a key, control is called upper, out is called dop, which is shortening from additional in Russian, and there are also separate language switches. There are 2 lock buttons for Cyrillic and Latin, they have LEDs, and this R/L is for quick layout switching. The keyboard is in ideal shape, but it has randomly appearing trouble with one button, so time to time we'll have to change it to a more destroyed but fully functional one. And the bitter thing is that we have a functional ST225 MFM hard drive and a controller, but we won't use the hard drive because its brain chip was in this condition. Well, given the Soviets had everything in top quality, it seems I discovered a corrosion of gold. The irony is, the controller is 0018, which is the rarest modifications of them, and I cannot find any replacement for this chip in Ukraine, wherever I search it. Alright, so let's power it on. The first we start the disks, and we put a floppy disk with the operation system into the drive 1. By the way, the EGA monitor we use has a switch that turns it to green or to amber, which we'll use for a sharper picture. Next, we start the system unit. You know, for me, this feels like a look through the time itself, because exactly the same it was back in the 80s. Like, imagine, You sit in front of such a picture in a dead city where only a few facilities are operating with a lot of precautions, and you do your tasks via this painfully slow machine. As feels. Please write us in the comments if you had something that felt for you the same. All is all good, so it made one beep and then started the boot process. The operation system we're gonna use is Alpha-DOS. It's a Soviet ripoff of the PC-DOS with some added modifications. Honestly, it's quite glitchy, so many users were moving to MS-DOS 3.3 if it was available. What is interesting, however, that Alpha-DOS is fully translated to Russian. We have a successful boot and a date and a time prompt, also in Russian language. And here we have a welcome message saying software package of a personal professional YES computer, Alpha-DOS version 02.01. All commands are also translated, so you can type both in Latin or Cyrillic. For example, type cat to get the directory structure. Or you can type dir. Okay, that sums up our emotions during restoration. Okay, by the way, a backstage of restoration you can find on Patreon. That is also quite interesting. Okay, correctly, dir/p. So, the config sys has a mandatory load of the system.sys, which was patched for Cyrillic support. And notice that many utilities and even file extensions were also translated. For example, two files on the bottom are fdisk and format. And note that disk prompt, it's not A, B or C as we are used, it is 1, 2 or 3. There are separate drivers for various types of printers you need to run before you can actually print. So that's like a COM files, also called in Russian language. Alright, let's try to use some software that was shipped with ES1841 standard package. For Alpha-DOS, there are apps like Slog, which was a text processor, ABAC, which was a cloned VisiCalc, such kind of primitive table processor, MicroPrease programming system, and so on. But we so far got only one app from this set. It is called DELOGRAF, which is application to make various charts and diagrams. It's pretty sophisticated, so as far as we know, it was also used in the Chernobyl zone as well. What is interesting, that if you launch it on a more modern DOS computer, it will be in 16 colors, while on ES1841 it's monochrome, despite the machine works in EGA color set. Well, if you can explain this to me, why it is so, just please write in the comments. Okay, here it is, Delovaya Grafika, which means business graphics. Here we can make pie charts, histograms, line diagrams, or draw a mass function. It says use arrows or spacebar to navigate the menu, then press enter. So let's make a pie chart as the most visual example. Here we have a menu, so let's get some details how to use it. Okay, so here we have maximum formal language, signature Soviet style, I would say. And it says, the main menu of the graphic object defines actions you can perform during creation of the graphic object. By pressing a corresponding functional key, is it possible, enter data to build graphic objects from keyboard input, F1, or read it from the file, F2. Modify the entered data, F3. Write data to the file on the disk, F4. Build the graphic object by existing data and output it to the screen, F5, or to printer, F6. Build the graphic object by existing data and write it to the file on disk, F8. Read the graphic object from a file and output to the screen or on printer, F9. Alright, let's enter some data. So title, let it be test diagram. Then value. Then description. And then it says outline sector. Frankly, no idea what to write here, so again press inf to get some help. Okay, to get more visual image, is it possible to outline some sectors of the diagram? Type on keyboard the symbol D and press enter to outline the sector. Okay, so let's outline this first sector and then enter some more data. Then we exit to main menu and then press F5 to draw it. Lovely, but how slow it actually is. Okay, now let's try to save it. So I press F4 and it asks me for a file name. Let it be a test like test diagram. No idea which extension is meant to be here. Okay. Now let's try to open a file. There is no file list actually expected. So you need to type it. Okay, I'll type it. And here we can draw it. Alright, and what if I press F9 to have a file list as it says? Excellent. Enter the file name. And what does the help say? Again, this communist language. To get an information about files on the disk, type on a keyboard a name of the file and press the Enter key. Under the name of a file is meant a specification of the file, in particular a name of a disk, name of a catalog in AlphaDOS, the name of the file itself, and the name and the type of the file may use symbols of place holding asterisk and question mark. The length of the file is limited by glowing window. During typing, the name of a file can be edited using commands of cursor movement and commands of insertion and deletion. Disk will be searched for all files with entered specification. Better they would explain what the wildcards do. Okay, let's try an asterisk. No idea. Maybe it will work. Okay, so we have a file, and if you do the same, we obviously get the drawing like before. Okay, let's move, I think, to the more interesting stuff. The next app I want to show you is really special. It's a program for processing radiation measurements. It was written in Chernobyl Zone. It's called Infogamma. And here it says Information Computer Center of the Production Association Combinat, Town of Chernobyl, 1988. And here is necessary historical detail, because this entity, the PO Combinat, it was created shortly after the Chernobyl disaster. It was kind of super centralized management organization to which belonged absolutely everything in the zone. Even the power plant was in their realm. And it was very obscure, very cryptic and really centralized. Like this, it existed up to 1990. By the way, we are translating to English this rarest book set. It was published by Combinat in just 100 copies, and it contains exceptionally interesting data, and soon we will start a series of videos about all of that unknown things. So here we have a menu with entering the new data set, then reading data from file, and reading the data using the current loop interface, I don't know, maybe from some device. Only one thing, we needed to reboot to pure MS-DOS, because in AlphaDOS our matrix printer works pretty strange. So if we go for data entering, what do we have here? It says, this instrument's purpose is to enter only a new data set. Please enter a number of accounting card of the data set you need to process. So basically it's all about gathering the data of some field measurements. Enter the surname and initials of the dosimetrist who made the measurements. Let it be me. Next screen. Choose the unit of the power of exposition dose. Exposition dose, that's how in the zone the radiation levels, call it in, let's say, more scientifically correct way. So options are roentgens per hour, milliroentgens per hour, microroentgens per hour, also per minute and per second. You know, I kinda feel for a guy who measured it somewhere microroentgens per second, I have to say. Alright, let it be milliroentgens per hour. Choose the device used for measurements. This actually you set in a configuration file, so I added here a few classical dosimeters, and let's select DP5V. If you don't know, exactly this is that device that had this infamous 3.6 roentgens maximum, very well pictured in HBO Chernobyl miniseries. So that's it. Type the human readable name of the data set. If the device had not been selected, write its type here. And next, we need to enter the data per every measurement point. Let it be the village of Kopachi, which is completely buried, so much it was contaminated. And next is this KU. I assume this is a control level, because the idea is when there is a contaminated place, the standard maximum levels for a normal life are pretty pointless to use, because they will be always exceeded. But some control level is defined, and it means something average, expectable at that very place. So, I don't know, let it be 25 milliroentgens per hour. Now we type the date and a time. And by the way, if I press enter, it will be automatically 00. Then we put a level, and if needed, we can also make a notice. So here we go. Okay, now let's press F6 to save it. And we have a file with the card name. Okay, now let's go to the file list and let's open that file. Okay, reading, and we have our data table and summary on the top. Here is F4 for utilities, but I do not have them. You need to add files and configuration. But what we can do, what I tested, we can try to print it. So I press the F3 and... But if I press F2, I can build diagrams for each point, and we have our control levels as well as a delta between minimum and maximum values. Beautiful. So, such an app. If you will find some more Chernobyl software, we will show it in our future videos as well, so don't forget to subscribe. I rebooted back to Alpha DOS because there is one more cool thing to show which is native for this operation system. It's a file manager which is called CommanDOS, or CommanDOS basically. Before, let's initialize the mouse by calling its driver. And then we start a batch file that launches the file manager. A funny detail, however, that CommanDOS breaks the built-in Cyrillic support, and it will remain so even if you exit. So after this I will again go to MS-DOS. But cool thing that this CommanDOS was written by some guys who actually had some sense of humor. So if you do not have a second floppy diskette inserted, it will throw you a red pop-up with a text literally saying a very scary unresolvable error occurred, like word by word translation. But we have it in, so it reads, and here we are. This looks close to Norton Commander in some meaning. I even see the mouse does work. No, I will not use it because it's freaking inconvenient in the end. So let's use keyboard. If you press F1, here the list of all the main commands such as switching panels, viewing files, editing, copying, deleting, directories, all usual. But I have to say there is no built-in editor, you need to link some via configuration. In the panel menu there are a few view options, but there is no derinfo contrary to Norton Commander. In commands menu, wow, an alarm clock. And then here is something called as a memory card. That's basically a task manager, but it doesn't seem to allow to actually kill the process, it's just a list what is in the memory. And also there is a built-in calculator. Well, it's not so cool as a calculator I will show you next, but also pretty convenient to have it here. We can also turn the interface to monochrome color scheme and back to colors if needed. In the files menu there are some operations available, the same as I described it before. Okay, so no bad and works pretty well. Now I will again reboot to MS-DOS because, as I said, Cyrillic had crashed. In MS-DOS, let's first initialize the mouse once more, and we can launch the Volkov commander, that super compact, like a functional clone of Norton, made in Ukraine in the beginning of the 90s. And it will look this way here. Okay, he is angry about absent hard disk. Close. Okay, so we need to run the special driver made specifically for ES1841 to fix the issue. In a full version of this video, which you can find on Patreon, there will be more software, but here let's try one more Chernobyl app, which is a calculator. But what's so special? It was made by the main computer center of the Ministry of Energy of the Soviet Union. It has many functions, such as formula handling, counting degrees and so on, and although it is in the console, you can even move it across the screen. Pretty cool. Alright, enough serious stuff for now, it's time for some games.
Let's play some classical games. I have a digger here.
How does it feel?
Returning to the childhood.
And the last time did you play?
When I was visiting my friends and they had a computer because I never had a computer. So my friends, they did it and they had it and it was so so unusual for us.
No, because honestly, I played this on Poisk 1. That's Ukrainian computer produced from the end of 80s, beginning of 90s. It's like a one monoblock keyboard, and I remember we were loading this from cassette. That was kind of 1992, I think. But I have to say the game is pretty notably slow here.
Yeah!
From the first round. Amazing. By the way, I have to say, still have no idea how to exit it.
You will catch me! It's a perfect game. It's amazing. We called these enemies the frogs. I don't know why or what they should be, but we call them frogs. So be careful that the frog does not bite you. So I decided to play a little more and I got also bonuses. Here are coming all the creatures and everything that you can collect here, and the bonus is in form of cherry. It's such a return to the childhood. I love this old game because it's really evoking memories.
And I would like to show you one more cool historical artifact. The thing is, apart from Alpha-DOS and MS-DOS, ES1841 could run M86, which was a Soviet clone of CPM operation system. We have some diskettes as well, some software for it, but problem is until we fix the hard drive issue, it will not work. It takes more space than one diskette to install that. So this, nevertheless, will be interesting for CPM fans because these are original translations of the CPM user manual made by some Soviet state translation agency. There are even many handwritten things here as they didn't know or didn't have on what to type English letters. I have to say this all looks socialistic. But this was the kind of things people were really hunting for in the conditions of the Iron Curtain. Let us know in the comments if you would like us to make a bonus video where we will try to run CPM on this very computer. So that's it. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, check also our page on Patreon because there will be a full screen recording and various documentation translated to English. And see you next time with the different equipment of the computers of Chernobyl.
Bye!